Howdy, howdy. My name is John, and this video is a discussion on the Netflix TV show Katla. Um, we'll go ahead and go around and introduce ourselves first. Steve and Randy.
Yes, I am Steve from Steve Talks Books and Stuff, and this is my better half, Brandy. She's here to chat Katla with us today.
Hello.
I'm Stacy from Stacy's All Booked. I have a channel. I will eventually post more videos someday. I'm really excited to be here today with y'all to talk about this show.
And we're thinking we're going to be joined by Jeff Lane, and when he arrives, I'll pop him into the chat. And I guess I thought I'd like to start with just a few kind of non-spoiler thoughts about the TV show, how well you enjoyed it, anything, that doesn't spoil the TV show that would interest people in it. Or warn them away if you didn't like it.
Go ahead, Stacy. It seems like you're.
So I did binge watch it. So I watched all 8 episodes in 2 days. So I don't know if that kind of affected my enjoyment of it. But I will say the first 4 episodes were very slow. It was a very slow burn show, period. And there was just enough in each episode to kind of want you to keep watching to find out what happens. But I just felt so slow. It's also a very bleak environment, which I thought was very interesting. But it also made for a very depressing 2 days because I was binge watching it. I would not warn anybody away from it. It does have a beautiful ending, and in some ways. And so I think it's only 8 episodes. It is enjoyable. It's just you have to be prepared that it's going to be slow. So if I were to rate it, be a 3.5 star out of 5.
Good.
I really liked it. I didn't think it. Don't remember thinking it was slow in the beginning. I was just always trying to figure out what is going on, and like all these theories going on in my head, which none were right. None of the things I even would take notes. This is making me feel like Pet Cemetery, and we'll talk about it, but it just didn't turn out to be what I thought it was. And I did like the grim of the world they were, or the area that they lived in, and how they just stayed. And anyway, I thought it was really good. I would have given it. I give it 5 out of 5 stars. I liked it.
And hi, Jeff. We're just going around giving kind of our non-spoiler thoughts on the show.
Okay. Sounds good.
Jeff, good. Nice of you to join us.
Jeff.
Getting some, get a little scruffy there.
Yeah, this is
I like
vacation
it.
beard. This is vacation.
Yeah.
It's not going to stick around too long.
Oh.
And it's good to meet you, Jeff. I did watch a little bit of your conversation on Dark this morning, just to kind of get an idea of how this conversation flows, and then to get a little bit more familiar with you.
Great. Sounds good. Well, it's very good to meet you, John.
So for me, I would say I enjoyed it. I think John, you said the same thing, that episodes 3 and 4 were a little started to drag a little bit.
Yeah, 3 and 4 where it got too slow, and episode 2 is almost too slow.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they are slow paced shows. Is the first 4 episodes.
Yeah, but overall, I thought it was good. It was very dark. Maybe it's because we watched Dark recently, but I got very heavy dark vibes from it. So, and I did like the environment. I like the bleakness of it. And if you did binge watch it, I'm sure it was a little
Yeah,
too much.
we broke it up.
We did
So
like 2 a night. I think
was
we did
2 a night for how many nights? 4 nights.
4 nights.
Yeah, we could. I was like, yeah, we need to watch something else for a little bit.
Yeah, but overall, it was. I don't want to give away the ending or anything, but it took a turn I wasn't expecting. And if there is going to be a season 2, I'm wondering what they're going to do with it.
I think there is.
Yeah, it
I
seems
have
like there is,
thoughts
but
on that.
we'll get into that. But yeah, overall, I'd probably give it 4 stars. Really good. There was just because I don't mind slow burns. It was just a little too slow. A couple episodes that it was kind of like, okay, like let's get on with it. Let's move it along. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed it.
All right, Jeff,
it's all you.
Sure. Well, I paced it out too. I watched one a night for one a night and then one this morning to finish up. And it was slow burn is a great description of it. And I like the pacing, John. I did see your video where you had said it kind of lagged in the middle, but I like that because for me it was more about the tension. Because if you think about, and I'm not saying any spoilers, like there wasn't a massive climax in all of this. They were all kind of smaller events leading up to it. So the slow burn for me was about just that tension build, and I really liked it. Up until the point that in the last episode, there was a point where I had to take out. I was watching it with my earbuds in, and I took my earbuds out and kind of looked away from the screen for a few seconds because I knew the inevitable conclusion was coming up for one of those characters, and I didn't want to see it.
Yeah.
So that's a mark of a good show to me. So I give it 4 digestive pills out of 5.
Nice.
Yeah, and I did post that review just to kind of build a little bit of hype for it. But yeah, overall, I would give it 4 stars. I really liked the first episode. I think that first episode was a 5-star because it gets you into the world and it gets you invested in it. And so I really liked that first episode. And then I did rewatch the first 2 because I kind of I binge watched them too. I watched them over a couple of days, and it's been like a week ago since I watched them. So they kind of faded a little bit. But like there's details in that first episode that I just didn't catch the first time that I watched it.
I've
Can I
often
ask you
wanted
guys-
to do that. Oh, go ahead, Brandy.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I was gonna say I've often wanted to do that too with shows, like go back and watch the first episode or so. Now that I've seen the end, what did I miss? And you're trying to like figure out the characters. Okay, she's married to him. She's in the wheelchair. You're just trying to like get the lay of the land, and there's probably a lot in there that could be uncovered again. So that's a good technique, John.
Yeah,
Sorry.
after the first episode, I actually had to stop, and I went to the IMDb page and just kind of got it in my head who the characters were because the names are they're not English names, so I had to write down like, okay, that's character is or that actor's that character, and they're like Grima is married to Karjan, and her dad's Thor, however you pronounce his name, and so just to kind of. And I had to do that with Dark when I watched it. I actually had to like make write out names and draw lines as to how they were all related.
It was really just one straight line on that one.
You're right.
Yeah, that was a big graph there. I was just going to ask you guys, did you guys watch it with English dubbing or did you watch with just as its original with subtitles?
So I watched the first episode with subtitles and I was so lost. I ended up rewatching it with English dubbing because I did notice that the subtitles, once I started English, were almost exactly what they were saying in English. So I did keep the subtitles on there though, so I can remember the names of people because again, it's not like John was saying, it's not English. So they would get confusing when I heard them, but as long as I could see it on the screen at the same time, it made it easier. So yeah, but they're even with English dubbed, when they would talk, and they still would have some subtitles for other languages. So they didn't dub over the Swede, what was her name? Gilhard? What was her name?
Gunhild?
Gunhild.
And her son, when they would talk in Swedish, that was not dubbed in English. So it wasn't fully English dubbed anyway. And they did speak in English multiple times in the regular dubbed one as well. So it was very confusing. So I just changed it to English, hoping it would be easier.
So in the English version, did they dub over the English with the same voice actor, or did they So I assume it was a different voice actor that would have sounded different, right?
Yeah, it sounded different when they talked in English. So that's the only thing that was, you know, because I watched it in the original version first. When I watched it the second time, I was like, he was speaking in English here, and it even says in the subtitle in English. But it did make the rest of the episodes a little bit easier to follow, in my opinion.
We did about 30 seconds with the dubbed, and I was like, no, we can't do this. Just however it's supposed to be, let's watch it that way.
Yeah.
I couldn't. Because their mouths are like moving, but it just drives me nuts.
Yeah.
I found I took a tip from Steve. Steve taught me this when we were watching Dark, to watch it in the native language with the subtitles, and I think I enjoyed it that much better. I think I'm sure the English speaking actors did a good job, but the emotion of their real words kind of came through. There was a point where I was watching through my Roku, which then brings the sound into your phone, and so for whatever reason, the sound blipped out for about 5 minutes. So I was like, I'm just reading the subtitles anyway. And then I rewound and I watched it again when the sound came back on, and there was a big difference in the emotion that I got out of hearing them, even though they're speaking. Is it Icelandic? Is that the official language?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I like, and that's a beautiful language. I was like 10 minutes into it. I'm like, I like just the sound of their language, even though I don't understand the words and I'm reading the subtitles. It was just a beautiful sounding language.
Mm-hmm.
I watched the first episode with just the English dub because I didn't really remember to change it. And then on the second one, I tried a lot of different things. I did try the Icelandic with English subs. And I found that I was focusing so much on reading it that I wasn't getting the full picture, that I just went ahead and went to the English subs just so I could get through it. And then I'd intended to go back and kind of watch it with the Icelandic and then the English subs. But when I rewatched the first two, I watched it dubbed English and English subs. I actually did notice some difference in what they said as to what was on the screen, and it didn't make a huge difference, but it was just interesting how much difference there was between the two. And then there were parts where the subs went away, and I don't know if that's where they were speaking English, because I never watched long enough on the Icelandic to hear them speaking English.
Yeah, it was almost like English was this default language for people that between the Icelandic and the Swedish, like their common language was now English, like and they just kind of like slipped into it and then just slipped back into
natural.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, and with Jeff, you mentioned the language being really beautiful. It's funny because we started, when we first started, it sounded a little German, and then a little bit of French, and even a little bit of Spanish. It seems like there was some twinkle of Spanish. So it kind of ran the gamut of all these different languages, and so we were trying to pick up on a few words here and there. But
and they've got that Nordic, like from the back of the tongue on the back teeth kind of sound, which is just really cool. I don't think I could ever emulate it, but it's really cool. Sorry, Brandon.
It's very pretty. No, I was just going to say some of the bad words are the same in English as they are in Icelandic. I said, now I know how to say the F word in Icelandic.
Yeah, I can say hi.
It was really pretty.
That's good.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
It was good. I was just curious how everybody experienced it. So it's good to know these things.
Yeah.
I think it also.
Are we allowed to spoil it soon? Okay.
All right. Yeah, I've got my spoiler banner, so if we're ready to
there
go,
you
spoiler.
go.
Professional. You're already a pro, John. You're doing great. I don't even know how to do that. All right. Cool. So.
Brandy asked for spoilers.
The season 2 thing, Brandy. You heard there might be a season 2, or there will be a season?
No, I didn't hear it, but I just felt like the way it ended, there might be a new set of I don't know. They were kind of. I spent the whole time trying to figure out what was this an ancient burial ground, like pet cemetery, and they were coming back evil, or was this what the heck? How could some people be dead and some people be alive? So it didn't make sense.
Yeah, we thought we had it. We kept figuring it out because first we thought they had to be dead for them to come back, and then that wasn't the case.
No, because the one
Yeah.
pregnant chick, Goonhild, how can she? And then Grima was still alive, and then you had the lady with the lungs.
Mhm.
Can't remember her name. Magna.
Magna.
And that I just loved how it unraveled because it, and then you could just, each one was there for a purpose, and to have, so that everybody could have, it was like a guardian angel kind of thing, and then they knew when it was their time to go. I don't know.
Well,
I'm still
Mikhail
thinking
didn't know
about it.
it was his
Yeah,
time.
Mikhail did not know.
Oh yeah, except for him, he was confused about why he was
He
there,
was
but his parents figured it out.
He was the scariest part of it, and I think with the addition of Mikhail and what a little psycho he was, amped up the tension for all of them. Like I expected any of them at any moment to turn evil and start slitting people's throats, but when I got to the end, I was like, oh, well, he was the only one that really was bad. Everyone else was pretty peaceful, pretty benign, and giving people good things in their life. It was the people around them that were turning into psychopaths.
But we find out too that Mikhail was a little psycho in his life, and his purpose, I felt like, was to show the mom, because she was always kind of had blinders on when it came to him, and the dad would, they had conflict because she kind of let him run wild, and so she got his purpose for her was to see what he, not to, but to see that he was really kind of a messed up kid. And then I don't know, I think that his purpose also was to bring them back together.
I got the impression that his purpose was really for them to see or to accept that things are better off with him not there anymore.
Yeah.
But I did not like the way it culminated into how they had to, get rid of him, which was, I imagine, Jeff, that was the part that you had trouble watching because it was the same for me.
That was not the part. The part was the Russian roulette with Grima.
Yeah.
Or her doppelganger. That was like every click of that gun. I was like, I can't. And then it got down to the last. You knew it was there on the sixth shot. And,
yeah, that was there was a lot of tension there. Yeah.
What do you think happened there? Do you think the doppelganger? They never showed which Grima died.
I think it was the original Grima, because the doppelganger took the first shot, I think, if I remember correctly.
I read it the other way. I thought original Grima took the first shot. So that means the even number of shots would have been the changeling.
I thought it was the first Grima or the original that took the first shot, because she said, I'll go first.
Yeah, she did take the first shot for sure, I think.
And I went back and rewound and watched it very slow to see what color the tank top was.
Yeah, did you catch it?
It was blue.
I didn't do that. It was the changeling that died.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think we left it for you to kind of use your own imagination. But yeah, I went back and had to figure it out. I watched that whole scene again. I was like, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Here, Jeff's looking away from it, and you're watching it a bunch of times.
I have to know which one it was.
Crazy.
I should have done that, because I was still like going back and forth about who it was.
And for the most clueless husband award, it definitely goes to Green's husband, right? she's walking around the house, and he's just like walking past her, doesn't notice her shirt's changed. What a dope.
Yeah, he doesn't. She's standing right next to him, and he doesn't realize.
I think it just was a good way of showing, though, that he just didn't see her when she was like that,
Yeah.
Like symbolically, even, like he just didn't. He saw her version when she was light, and happy.
Comforting.
But he just didn't see her when she was just so dark.
Yeah, which is why I thought she was just going to go like, I thought the way that was going to resolve was she was going to say, he is happier with this other version of me. So I'm going to do what my mom did and kind of step out of the way. So I was like on edge the whole time.
How about you, John? What did you think of that scene?
Well, I made myself watch it, and I was very tempted to pull away. And like I said, I thought, at first I thought it was the original agreement that had passed, and I was like, if it was like if Oss's purpose, Doppel's purpose coming back was to kind of help Grima accept her death, then why would she later need to end her own life? That kind of sequence really was like, why was all of that necessary?
Mm-hmm.
Because clearly, or at least I think Grima's Doppel's purpose was, just to show, well, one, to show her husband kind of what life was like before, but maybe even to show Grima what her life what was like before.
Yeah, and
And
to
how to
let
move
go
on.
of her mom. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Like rearrange, she's painting and rearranging, and they said the house looked just like it looked when the mom was still there. So she still hadn't even let go of that. So.
Yeah, but they were children at that time. Can you imagine a whole lifetime of that grief that she's had?
Yeah.
And then, to bring back the mom, so I don't know if you guys noticed this, but when Elsa was witnessed the father and Gunhild, I'm so bad with these names. That had happened prior when they were kids, right? And then she sees it again. So I was really confused why she was reacting the way she was when she saw them together. Like she seemed upset. I'm like, why are you so upset? So it took till the end when the two Grimas were talking and she mentioned that. I was like, oh, okay. But I didn't know if you guys caught that sooner because I was really confused why she was acting all weird about that.
When she came in and like kind of blasted her when they were like having dinner together, and Austra came in and like kind of blasted the older Grunhild, I was like, how do you know each other? And I thought there was like a changeling thing going on, but that wasn't the changeling Grunhild. That was the older one.
Mm-hmm.
So I was confused until at some point they said that she walked in on them. And
and the way they showed or filmed that was like they were showing her as a little girl watching and how it happened as a little girl, but then it would flash to the way it was happening now, like in the now.
I think I just must have missed it.
They were showing it. I felt like they were showing both at once because they'd show the little girl, Ausha, and then they would show like the grown-up changeling Ausha. Like it was happening. So
yeah, and then I started to wonder if it was like a dark situation where there was a loop that was happening, because the way that scene was filmed especially made me start wondering, is there some kind of just loop that keeps happening over and over again? But I will say that I think Netflix does a really good job with trailers, but I think the trailer for this one was a little bit misleading because it looks more like a horror science fiction. I still enjoy the show, but I think the trailer, if you went in expecting something a little scary and I think you'd be a little bit disappointed. So
yeah, there wasn't a ton of gore. It was, I mean, the premise is science fiction-y, but I think it was more of like a psychological thriller than it was a true horror. Other than Mikhail with his little utility knife, got a lot of mileage out of that little knife. So you got a sheep, you got the old couple with it. The wires in the shed.
Man, that kid.
Did you guys think so I was also another part that I was really confused was Gisli and his wife. the two. Like, what the heck? I can't. It's like he couldn't decide which one he wanted to keep. I was like, this is not. And at that point, I had started to realize that the changelings were coming back to kind of help people, because at that point, I think is when you started to I felt like I never had it right, like who they were there for, but I kind of picked up that. So when she shows up, I was like, who is she there for? And I'm curious what you guys eventually decided on that, because that was like, was she there for him or was she there for his wife?
I think
That's a good
100% both of them. Him to just be able to be okay with her letting her go. And I mean, he was her caretaker. He was just, you could tell he really missed her at the same time. I mean, he was like tortured. But at the same time, he had this duty to, to just care for her until she passes. But it was going to be a long, you never know. It could be tomorrow. It could be 100 days, I think they said, or whatever. And then for her, she was just suffering. She couldn't communicate, and I think she was there to, like, I don't want to say like a euthanasia type situation, but he was there to like relieve her. She was there to relieve her from some of her suffering.
Yeah, they definitely Thelma and Louise did into the volcano at the end. So I hadn't picked up on that she was probably more that she was there for her as much as Gisli, if not more. But yeah, what kind of psycho has a locked door in his basement?
It was like a jail cage.
It did seem like that.
That's not standard equipment for a chief of police.
Not in his home.
I mean, I was thinking maybe since the world shut down up there, he needed somewhere to detain. I don't know.
Police station.
I can't even make an excuse for that guy. I don't know what he had a cage in his basement for.
That actually, it's a good point, because he was using the church as a police station, right? And so maybe, like, if he had to detain someone overnight, maybe he would just bring them home and put them in the basement. Yeah, that's a good question. Well, that's kind of the cool thing about this show, is that you're kind of plopped down in the middle of this weird setting, and you had to learn a lot by context, and not everything felt the need to be like completely explained, which I kind of like. Like, okay, there's a few things I've kind of picked up on, and things made sense later on, but other things, it's their world. That made it very real to me.
What do you think, John, about? Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Steve.
Oh no, I was just asked John what he thought about Gunhild or Giuseppe, or what was his name? Just
Gisli and
and the wife.
Yeah, who did you think she was there for?
Given the way the wife and her doppel go out, I think she was there more for the wife, just to kind of help her let go. And I will say the actress that played the wife really did a good job when she wasn't able to speak, just showing emotion just by her face. I really noticed how well she did there.
It seemed to me that she was very afraid of her husband, for somebody that, so it made me feel like there was some more to that relationship that we as viewers were not aware of.
I kind of got some creep vibes from him. Like he was a little something. Yeah, and for him to be so ready to start over medicating her once the other version showed up, I think that tells you where his mind was. He was just ready to. I think he felt burdened by her, and he didn't want to deal with it anymore. He had the shinier version. The new car smell was back, and he was like, "Well, I don't need this one anymore." And so.
And that whole scene where he was like helping her do something, and he gropes her, like, and she, you could tell that's not the first time he's done something like that. She's probably sketched out by him. He unwanted touching and stuff.
She can't. The look on her face was.
So I think she was scared of him.
Yeah.
And then he locks the young one up too, and he just kind of has. And his whole mindset of, I'm going to lock her up in the basement in this cage, and I'm going to let her out and everything's going to be fine, is just kind of weird.
Yeah,
think
he was not all there.
He was a creep, but so I do think the changeling was there more for her than him, to get her away from him and to end her suffering maybe. But yeah, it was a good question.
He did care a lot for her digestion, though. That was the medication.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it took us a minute to figure out what is he doing. Okay, so he's not actually giving her cancer meds, just something that won't do anything for her.
Yeah. It was weird though, that even if he didn't give her any medication, she wouldn't have been able to tell anybody. Oh, I guess she could write.
Mm-hmm.
So he was, I don't know if he was trying to fool her as much as just keep a charade up or what. But.
Well, when he started giving her those other pills, he was just kind of forcing them down and making her swallow them. I think he did it in a way where she couldn't see what he was giving to her, and just so she couldn't let anyone know, and it would just be him. The only person who would know was him. So that's But he to everyone else, he does seem like the loving, caring husband who's caring for his wife. But when they're alone, he has this different. The things he does is not doesn't match that persona he has with everyone else.
Yeah, he was a creeper.
Yeah.
So we've got Mikhail and Jason, Creepside. And anybody else that we didn't like as characters or that were giving us bad vibes?
Nobody gave me bad vibes, but there were characters I didn't like. I didn't really care for Grima.
Yeah, I like Grima.
That's just me then.
No, yeah, she was definitely, she was kind of set up to be the protagonist a little bit. I think she was kind of the central character that introduced us to this. So by definition, you should like her. So it's interesting that you didn't, Stacy, that you got, because she certainly wasn't likable at times, though understandable. But what was it you didn't like about her?
I don't know. If it were me and I was given a second chance, my sister shows up, even if it's under the circumstances that it has and it's very mysterious, you would have expected her to be a little bit more excited or have some kind of emotion. I guess part of that was her mental health. And now that I think about it, she was very heavily medicated, so maybe that had a lot to do with it. But I had a hard time connecting to somebody whose sister comes back after a year of being missing. And all she wants to do is solve the mystery. Find out why she's there. How did she get here? Instead of just accepting the fact that she's there. And she did the same thing. And then she also had that disconnected emotional response to seeing herself. It's like, if I saw a person that looked just like me, I'd freak out a little bit. Instead, she takes her to her home, lets her get all cleaned up. So I guess I just had trouble connecting with somebody who was so emotionless. Like I didn't ever feel like she reacted to things normally, but that may have been the purpose of how they wanted her to come about. But I had trouble connecting with her. And I also kind of felt a little sorry for her husband and having to deal with that. So I didn't like him either. Like I wasn't like, oh, I hope, because once he started ignoring her and the way he was reacting towards her, then I was like, I don't like you either. Maybe I didn't like anybody. Except the old lady that owned the hotel.
She frustrated me, but I kind of liked that. I felt like she did a good job, and that maybe how she was supposed to be. But I felt like the whole finding out what happened to the sister was her obsession, and then she just shows up, and something didn't feel right to her because she was close with her sister, so she had to get to the bottom of it. This isn't right. It's not right. Like it didn't feel right to her. So that's how I kind of took that. And then when the other Grima came, same thing. I got to get to the bottom of this. Isn't right. I need to find out why you're here. Why are you here? But then all this stuff kept happening, and she had to leave her there. So I don't know. I think she was meant to be a frustrating character.
Yeah.
She pulled it off.
Some of her decisions, especially in the latter half when her doppelganger had showed up, were frustrating. Like, why would you leave this person to just wander around your house. Oh, she wrote a note to her husband. Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, nothing could happen to that note. It's, and then she just like keeps leaving her there. And this is in my mind. I'm still thinking all these changelings are going to turn out to be psycho murdering people. So I thought, in my mind, she was endangering her husband by being so blasé about just letting this other grima walk around. And had multiple occasions where she could have told her husband, or she tried to show him the paper about Ausha's DNA, the body being Ausha, but and he didn't believe her. All she did was like, come here, I want you to look at something. See, there's another me here. She 10 times over she could have told him, and I felt she was endangering him by not telling him. Yeah,
there were multiple times in this show where I was like, really, the characters made decisions that was, I questioned, like when Tor first comes to the hospital and sees Gahun, and nobody really questions him about, clearly she knows him, but nobody really questions him about it. And then it takes the younger Gahun like episode 5 or 6 before she even finds out that 20 years has passed between, when she remembers and the present time. And then, as y'all have mentioned, some of Grima's decisions as well.
I thought that was weird too, because she recognizes people that are obviously much older, and she doesn't question that they look different. But I think I started to think, oh, well, that must have been because it's her purpose, right? She's not, I don't know. I felt like the changelings had they had blinders on as well, because there were some decisions the changelings made that didn't make sense, but it was because they were there to fulfill a purpose, not really to live their lives. But I was like, how do you recognize this man from 20 years ago? He obviously, we see pictures of what he looked like then. He does not look the same. He's got white hair instead of red hair. How do you not go, you look different?
Yeah.
Sorry, my dog's over here freaking out.
So what do we think the younger Gahun's purpose was? Because that's the one purpose we really haven't talked about yet.
Yeah.
I now thinking about purpose, because I hadn't dug that deep into this show until you guys started talking about it. I think she was there for the older one to help her realize that she didn't cause Bjorn's birth defects. Mm-hmm. Wasn't her fault.
That was definitely one of them. I think she was also there to kind of help Tor kind of heal from his, but I think the primary one was for the older version of herself.
I felt like for Bjorn too, because now he gets a relationship with his dad.
Yep.
That he never had.
And one of his sisters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think happened to her? Did I miss something? Because I didn't.
The younger version?
She just disappears, right?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know that the show ever deals with what happened to her version.
Yeah, because the older one goes to see her in the hospital, and they're like, she was just here, and then that's it.
Yeah, and there's still like a depression in the bed where she was, so almost like she just kind of evaporated. I never thought about that.
Yeah. I'd kind of wondered, and here again, maybe they don't have to meet a violent end to fulfill their purpose, because I think every other one of them did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tor was a character that I didn't feel he needed or deserved any sort of purpose sent his way. I never connected with him as a character because I thought he was very flippant about his dead daughter coming back. Like, being a parent, okay, lady that looks like my old girlfriend is in the hospital, but holy cow, my dead daughter is back. Like, you'd think that should be all consuming, but all he cared about was Brunhild. And then, he obviously had been, cheating on his wife with her and stuff like that. So I wasn't a big fan of Tor. Although he does like cats, and I'm kind of a cat guy. So. There's one point in his face.
What did you think, John? What was her purpose?
I was thinking, kind of agreeing with Jeff. Primarily, it was to reassure the older version that her son's condition was not a result of the attempted abortion. It was a genetic defect.
That's another time I thought we might be in a loop because it seemed like she was going to give birth again, and so I thought there might be something that just keeps happening over and over again. But yeah, she does just disappear. I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the Mikkel's dad, I forget his name. His reaction when his son comes back, it was frustrating at the time because it was kind of, why wouldn't you tell somebody your dead son is back? But then you get to know why he kept it to himself, because he was a little psychopath. So I do like the way that unfolded. It was frustrating at the time, but then towards the end, when you learn about him being, dangerous, and it's okay, well, I understand why you kept it to yourself.
And his name was Dari, and he was the one that actually questioned, are these really the people that we think they are? Because, at some point you have to actually wonder, who these people are or what they are. And he was really the first to kind of question that.
Yeah.
I felt too like he kind of knew something was going on up there because they were sending him samples and he got a weird reading of something weird going on, but he couldn't quite figure out what it was, so he had to go up there.
Yeah. I misread that. I thought he was going up because I thought he had a thing going with the female scientist that was up at the camp, but I misjudged that one. I was like, no, they don't even really know each other. So. Well, I do wonder about Dari though, because when he went down in the cave and there were other changelings down there that were kind of like waking up. Another point where was very amped up on the psychological scariness factor, but then he just I couldn't tell if he saw them or didn't see them, but he just kind of. We don't see him like scrambling from the cave, which I would have done. I would have been like, holy crap, come at it. He just kind of goes on, starts talking that he found that it was a meteorite. But so I didn't know if at one point I thought maybe Dari had gotten replaced by a changeling. I totally misread this show. I'm going to be honest. Like every time I thought I was understanding the show, I was like wrong. So
yeah,
but it is weird that but it did kind of leave that hanging. Okay, there are more changelings down there, and then the only time you see it is at the very, very end, the last shot.
And I think the way they ended it with all these it looked like a shadow of a bunch of changelings coming. They left it open for who are they going to help next? Maybe some characters we haven't met yet. Maybe some that haven't quite gotten it. I don't know.
There's not too many people in the town, though, so there can't be too many people.
Right.
Yeah, but maybe there's just people we haven't met yet.
Maybe.
Or people.
Because Brunhild wasn't in the town initially. She was someone who had been in the town. Or someone because I guess the people manifested them from their own memories.
So they could have been created prior to the eruption, but aren't released now because of the eruption. So yeah, it's very possible that they're there for people who've already left. And the couple that pick up Mikkel are actually leaving Vic as well. So there are other people we aren't aware of that still are there. I kept wondering throughout the whole show, why are these people still living here? I don't know about y'all, but I was like, what? It's like, time to go.
Yeah.
Well, now that we're talking about it, now that we've been talking about the purposes of the changelings, maybe they couldn't let go and they had to stay there because they had some unfinished business, I guess, somehow, and they just didn't realize it. Because I wonder the same thing. Why would anyone live there with all this ash and everything and this terrible weather? There's, nothing's green. Well, there's a little bit of growth of vegetation, but now that we're talking about it, I think maybe they just couldn't let go, and they had to, now that these changelings came and changed their lives, or maybe they can move on and leave and get some fresh air.
That's a good point. Although now, like Grima and her husband seem to be, they've got a little happy little family going there, and finally got that piano tuned, and it's so they, so maybe they don't need to move on. It is weird. I mean, I grew up in Maine, and I thought I had it rough, but that area was, there's not a whole lot of reason to say. It was almost otherworldly at a certain point. It kind of reminded me of almost like a sci-fi, like Martian type landscape. So it is a good, I can see why Grima and Tor might stay still, they were still not letting go of Ausha, but everyone else, why would you stay? Unless they thought it was going to get better.
And the whole glacier, it's cold, but there's a volcano erupting all the time. I thought that was pretty crazy. And it was believable. I mean, like, just the way everything looked, the scenery was really pretty. They did these really nice aerial shots of things. It was really, I liked it.
Yeah.
Did you guys do any research as to where it was filmed at? Was it actually filmed at a volcano, or?
It was actually filmed in Vic. Vic's a real town, and they filmed it there.
Oh wow.
So is Katla a real mountain or a real volcano?
I did not look that far. I think it is, but it did not look that far. But it's on the southern tip of Iceland.
Steve's looking for us right now.
Yeah.
Research, Steve.
Yeah, really interesting weather and landscapes and disasters up there.
Yeah.
What I couldn't understand is why these people were letting their animals run around outside. It's like, why were the sheep outside? There's nothing for them to eat.
And the poor,
What was that?
Another thing I wondered is, how was that dust not clogging the air filters of their vehicles? I mean, you would have to change that thing constantly to keep it from fouling the engine.
Well, they did address that twice. So Grima's got clogged up when she was near the camp, and that was when she walked in and saw the changeling Grima. And then the Greasley's son, the other rescue guy, was changing his out when his dad said, give me the car. So they did talk about the air filters in the cars. Although I did notice that maybe I'm just more mask conscious now here in 2021, but those breathers, those respirators, spent more time around their necks than they did.
Yeah.
I noticed that too.
What do you guys make of that crow that kept coming back with the white feather? What was it? It was a changeling, and why did it keep? It felt like it came back a few times or a couple times.
Yeah.
What was that?
I don't know. I didn't feel like that was ever really.
Yeah, or it was like a blackbird.
Like, why did it keep coming back? What was its purpose?
Yeah, it had to, because Thor kept, like, he'd bury it, and then he'd look, and it was buried still. But maybe just to show us that it can be, I don't know the whole purpose of that bird.
It's probably a tip to the audience, like, here are some of the rules of this. Like, if it comes back, its previous body can still be there. Maybe it was to help lay out the rules of
that it wasn't a dead person coming back. It was something else.
It happens with animals too.
And it was kind of a setup for finding Ausha's body too, which that was kind of sad to me, because it made me think that whatever happened to Ausha, it sounded like she broke her leg on the glacier and had made it back to the camp, couldn't get in, so she crawled under for shelter and died under the shelter.
It's more.
Yeah.
So Katla is a real place. It's a real volcano. It is one of Iceland's most active volcanoes, having erupted at least 20 times since the year 1100. So it is a glacial volcano.
That is so cool.
With a
I
meteorite.
didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah.
Meteorite in it.
The funny thing about the meteorite, as soon as they found it, I was like, why is this so familiar to me? Because I'm reading the Michael Grant Gone series, and in that they have a nuclear facility, a nuclear plant, that a meteorite had gone and like punched its way into that and is causing issues in the town. So Watch out for meteorites. Don't let them near your nuclear plants or your volcanoes.
I guess I just kind of expected more from the show. Like you were saying, Steve, that the trailer made me think it was going to be a more. I don't even say. I didn't even need it to be more horror, but I just felt it was more of a drama. There was some suspense there because you didn't know really what was happening, but there wasn't. Like, honestly, I don't know how many times the changelings got together and I kept thinking, okay, this is where they're going to plan the destruction of the town. I just expected that. And so there was some disappointment because of those expectations that may have, made it maybe not enjoy it as much because I felt that. But it was an incredibly interesting story. And there was a lot of, you keep talking about loops, Steve, but there was a lot of that. The way that Elsa decided to kill herself was the same way that her mother did. There was some, the way that she witnessed her father and Gunhild together, just as she did as a child. So I think that I missed a lot of that when I was going through it. It wasn't until the end that those things started to click because I kept waiting for it to be,
Right.
Yeah.
I just loved that, though. I loved that I was constantly waiting for these changelings to be the bad guy and to do like all this destruction. And then in the end, I was like, oh, they were good. They served a good purpose. I loved it. I loved that. I loved it.
Yeah. Well, like I said in my review, and I don't know that this counts as a non-spoiler review, but in this show, you actually kind of get an idea of why they're there. In the other shows that I've seen, you never get that far. They're dealing with the surprise of them being there. And of course, the other two shows I mentioned, these were always dead people that had returned. Whereas in this show, you had still living people, younger versions of still living people that show up. So, those two things really kind of differentiated this show from those other two that I've seen.
Mm-hmm. It did make it a very unique story.
Yeah, and it was one that you usually with these shows you're starting to figure out, okay, so they come back because of this, so they this is the rule that makes them come back. And through the whole 8 episodes, I still could not figure out, okay, so they don't have to be dead, they can come back, then they're living. Like it kept me engaged and thinking the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
But I was waiting, like Steve said, for the. And then maybe that's part of the brilliance of the show, that we were conditioned to think that they were harbingers of bad things. They all weren't necessarily.
Little subverting expectations, but not too much where it was annoying. But it was, and maybe that was the point of the trailers. Maybe they wanted to make you feel like it was a horror jump scare kind of story, and it was not that at all. So maybe that was on purpose.
It's funny you mentioned the trailer because I did watch the trailer when you had it out on the forums as to which one we were gonna choose. But I don't remember much about the trailer. I think I just kind of got the vibe of it, and it seemed cool to me, which is good because I like to go, I try not to watch a lot of trailers or read up on spoilers or anything. I love to go in as much of a blank slate as possible. And then it was a long gap between when we'd made the choice and when I started watching it, so I'd kind of forgotten about the trailer. So I didn't notice that. I don't think I had any expectations going into it based on the trailer. I think I just kind of was like, all right, here's the thing we said we were going to watch, and it's got some weird, creepy, ashy people coming out of the volcano, and that's all I remembered about it. But.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same. I watched the trailer because I know I watched it before I linked it in my videos, but I didn't remember it well enough to bring any expectations into watching the show. From it.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of at one point thought they were golems, that they were, made from the volcano, from the rock. But then when the young Gunhild started bleeding from her pregnancy, I was like, oh, maybe they're not so clay people. Yeah. I just had to throw that in there.
I mean, here again, they're in the hospital and they're being monitored. for
That's
like
true.
their heart. So
Yeah. Dari's
I-
poking
yeah.
and prodding Mikhail.
I almost expected the changelings to start falling apart because I thought they might have a timer on them and they would only last for a few days and then they'd start just deteriorating really fast. But that didn't happen either. So a lot of things. I did like the way they spun this a little bit to where it wasn't what you would expect, what normally happens in stories like these. But
And I'd like to go back and watch sometime too, because I think in the hotel manager lady that was kind of the tea leaf reader or the tarot card fortune teller lady, I think she probably gave us little hints of things of why, because she gave all this history and all these folk stories or this, and I feel like maybe there were hints of what was going on in there, but I probably just didn't catch it because I was so busy waiting for the Pet Cemetery people to come from the ancient burial ground. I don't know.
I think she was in on that. She knows more than
Yeah, I think she knows.
yeah.
yeah,
Like she was
yeah.
really,
In the second episode, she does kind of drop a few clues because she's talking to Dari and the other two volcanoes, and they kind of dismiss her as being a leftover from the hippie era, but
Yeah.
she's a little bit more in tune than we really kind of realize. And she's the one that names them changelings. Yeah, I keep thinking of them as doppelgangers from my D&D days, but yeah, she was the one that named them changelings.
Yeah.
I felt too like I got a sense that she knew, especially when she was dealing with Dari and his wife, that she knew that they were meant to be like working things out. I don't know. I just felt like she kind of knew what was going on, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I
she was
think I
like,
need to watch
one room or two? Mhm.
Yeah, I'm looking at it doesn't look like they've released any information on it, whether or not a season 2 is coming. But I was going to say I'll probably rewatch season 1 before season 2 if it comes out.
So what do you think? Would you want a season 2? I mean, if they left it at this as a self-contained, this was the story and got a little bit of a, cliffhanger at the end with the new changelings coming out, or would you want to see more of this town, more of these characters?
I kind of would be happy if this was it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
I
feel
don't
that way
really-
too.
Yeah.
Like I'd be satisfied if this was the ending. If they made another season and did it well, I'd be happy too. So.
I'd like to see a season 2, but again, I'd be happy if this were it. I think it ended well enough that it's a satisfying ending if this is all we get.
Yeah, I would be satisfied with just one season if not for that last scene, because that last scene sets it up for there's more to come. But if that scene didn't happen and this was it, I'd be happy. But again, I wonder what will they do if they continue this? Like where can they take it from here? Because it's such a small, isolated place, and do you need to ferry across to get to the rest of the to other landmasses? So it's where do you go from here? But there's people much more creative than I am that I'm sure can figure it out. So maybe they'll come up with something clever.
Who else in the town is there? There was the doctor, and she had apparently had a previous relationship with Ausha. There's the nurse. There's a nurse in that hospital. There's the ferryman. Maybe one of the changelings will come out and someone will actually have a permit for once. Do a little resolution. Yeah, there isn't a whole lot unless we just haven't seen other people.
And here again, maybe it's people who have left the town and are just coming back to check on their property. Or and here again, that they're anybody that ever visited the town, maybe they're included because Gunhild was had just lived there for a short time.
But I feel like she was able to come because she came for Thor, who lived there too. He was part of her.
And that could be that could be part of the rules.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think he had regrets, you
Yeah.
know, because as far as he knew, when she left, she was getting an abortion, and I think that he may have had regrets about that, and that not having his child, that other child, and so she came there to bring the older one so that he would then find out that he does have a son, and that she didn't actually go through with the abortion, or the abortion was unsuccessful.
Yeah.
So I think I agree with Brandy. I think that because he's still in the town, is the reason why there's that connection. But I don't know, maybe they'll come back and it'll be an alien invasion and it won't be the changelings anymore. That would be
Yeah.
interesting.
I think if they did do another season, they'd have to expand on the mythos of the volcano and the meteor, and they'd have to expand more on that and less on the characters and the little personal relationships. I think they'd have to grow it out a little bit more for it to be, because we kind of know now what the formula is. So they'd have to come up with some really interesting characters or some kind of
Yeah.
but I think they'd have to expand on, or maybe they go back in history and do like a throwback to the other times the volcanoes erupted and other stories and that'll be like a going back in time and learning more about the volcano and why this is happening in the first place, where it came from. So maybe something like that.
I think it's tricky territory to try to do, because either you Home Alone to it, where you basically try to do the same thing again with a new set of characters, or you expand on it. But in expanding on it, do you take away some of that mystery? Do you take, or do you add more mystery? So I think it's a second season would be a dicey area to go in. But smart creators could pull it off.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that they don't already have a season 2 in mind worries me, because like Dark had a plan for 4 seasons. They already had the scripts written, everything. So season 1 was intended to be built upon, and they knew where it was going. This one might be, they didn't write the script in expecting a season 2, more than likely. Otherwise, Netflix is really good about capturing that right away. So there may be things. It may be a little bit harder to write a second season and making sure that, because they tied up everything. All the loose ends were tied up. If it weren't for that last scene, we wouldn't have even expected another season.
Right.
So
And that last scene could have just been to show us that it's like something that continues to go on.
Yeah.
For these people.
And we knew we'd had those glimpses in that cave that there were more changelings. So it's almost like a Stephen King type ending, where it's like, and there's more horror to come, but this is where we're backing away, and we're gonna we'll leave this to you for you to imagine what might come next.
Which I think is pretty cool if that's how it's gonna end.
Yeah, it looks like they haven't announced it yet, but they haven't said whether or not there will be a season 2. So,
when did this come out? When?
last month.
Oh, so this is
It's
fairly
very, very early. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very recent. I think it came out like the beginning of July.
Oh, it says mid-June, so.
Oh, mid-June. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, the decision should be made soon. But this is an article from a month ago. They said Netflix is assuming that it won't be a one and done limited series. So it looks like the expectation is there will be another season, but not official yet.
Well, I'd be
I'm watching
interested
it.
to see, what they do. Hopefully, it's good, and it doesn't take away from what they've already done.
But I think you're right. It like Steve was saying, they have to find some way to break the formula. Otherwise, the viewers are going to be bored.
Yeah.
So something has to change.
And I think that's what makes Dark so brilliant, is the way that they had it in mind. They knew the start point to the end point, and they kept you engaged enough, and they gave you just enough to keep you going, but not enough that you knew what was happening. So they kept building on it, and they
expanded. Yeah.
They would answer, and then they'd add more questions. They'd answer, and they'd add more, and so it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And so it's really, but hopefully this will do the same thing.
Yeah.
Maybe they have a plan.
Maybe more re.
He will finally get his
Next season.
bloodshed.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna have to go watch Thing, and then I'll feel better.
Yeah, but I think it was good.
It was a good show.
I
Good
like that
pick.
it didn't turn into the It was
Yeah.
yeah, it was good.
Yeah, because I was kind of, when we voted, I think I voted for something else.
Jeez.
And then I was just like, okay, I mean, this is going to be interesting. I didn't pick this show, but it was good. I liked it.
Yeah. So, Katla Read Rock Create has been lurking, but she needs to head off. So thank you for joining us.
Thanks.
We have other lurkers out there.
It looks like she was the only one kind of watching, but I know one other viewer of mine kind of mentioned that he was watching the show, so he may wind up watching it later.
I'm curious
I know,
what people think. If they
Yeah.
watched the TV show, if they agree with us, or if there's anybody who has a different feelings.
I know Vilhelmine Mist. She's the author of the Nocturnal series. She's from Iceland and she's a fan of the show, so I think she was going to watch too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That would be really cool to get a perspective from someone that's from that area, because I would assume that would be a big deal to have your country featured, and I don't know how big the population of Iceland is, but it'd be cool to get some of their perspective on it.
Or if she's ever visited that part of Iceland.
Yeah.
She got a
Yeah.
permit. She's able to actually go.
You got the permit. Really, you don't need one. Anybody can just.
Just sneak on.
Yeah, Katya's saying she knows a lot about Vic now, and I can't say I learned a whole lot, but it was interesting, just kind of the little bit of research that I did.
Mhm.
What caused them to colonize it in the first place is what I'm wondering. It must have been a beautiful glacier at some point that with all that ash, though, it would probably, after some time, it would be very fertile land.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it probably goes through periods of,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounded like it was like that. This most recent eruption had been going on for a prolonged period of time, or longer than normal, which caused them to evacuate. So it made me think that the town didn't always look like that. Like it must have,
Yeah, the most recent one had been lasting for a year, and so and they said multiple times it's never been active for a whole year.
Oh, so this is
I
the
missed that.
longest it's been active.
Hmm.
Is it still active today?
Yeah, I think the last one was in 2011. It
Oh.
erupted. Yeah, so it's still every 20 years or so, I think they said it erupts.
Oh, wow.
Yikes.
So it's still active. But not to get too far into dark, because that's a whole other thing. But the way that, and I know spoilers, but the way that the power plant in Dark in season 1 is almost like a character in its own. I kind of got the same vibe from the volcano and the
Yeah.
glacier. It seems like it's
Mhm.
a whole different character on it. It's the shots of it reminded me of the overhead shots of the power plant. So that was and some really
Yeah.
beautiful shots
Mhm.
of the volcano.
Yeah, the filming was very, very good in this one. And
Go ahead.
I just can't get over how bleak and dark that place was. Like, I would not want to be there.
I had the same. The overall the setting was interesting. The town and the countryside and the glacier. It was bleak and beautiful in its bleakness. Of course, I was sitting watching this from Cape Cod, Massachusetts, after having spent a day at the beach. So, sometimes you can disconnect yourself. Ooh, that's very pretty to live there. But then if you were there, you're like, dang, it's cold and it stinks like volcano ash all the time. But the setting contributed a lot to the story, I think, and just and also the sound design. I don't know, maybe because I watched this one with earbuds, and the sound was just really good throughout it. I thought whoever mixed the sound, that to me added a lot to this experience too.
I felt like the
Lots of
story
coats.
was a
And
bit of a
I love coats, so
Yeah.
lots and lots of
Yeah.
coats.
So that makes me wonder, when they first found the body under the shed, did you already know it was Elsa because of the outfit that the body was wearing? That, what was it, like a rescue jacket?
The giveaway for me was that that actress's teeth, like she had very unique teeth, smile, and that body that they found had that same
Yeah, that's what
space.
clued me in was the space in her front teeth.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was a freaky scene too, just being like trapped under there with the body. Like that was another like moment that I was expecting. That Grima was down there with the body of the person who was right out waiting for her to crawl out of this hole. Like I didn't think that was gonna turn out well. But
Yeah.
So I just had a thought. So Mikhail was in that shed for a little while. He pulled up that board,
Hmm.
and then do you think it was helping them to notice that board, because it was that board that Grima eventually
Stop the
pulled
door,
up and
yeah.
started seeing. Like he
So did he
helped
do it on
out. He was
purpose?
helping them a little too.
Hmm.
I don't know.
maybe.
It's entirely possible.
I think anything is possible, really, with the show. They left you a lot of, like I said, the everything was tied up in the end, but the story by no means gave you any depth into what was happening, why things were happening, and I liked that about it, because that mystery still lingers at the end of it. So you could have these discussions, and we all have different ideas as to why things happened, how they went about, how they might be linked. And so that part of it was well done. You still feel satisfied in the show, but yet not everything was hand fed to you.
Right. Yeah, there's still room for a second season should they decide to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm with Stacey. I think any show that allows the viewer to doesn't spoon feed you every single detail and allows you to use your brain and figure this stuff out and leaves some things, is okay with leaving a few things unspoken or unsaid or unfigured out. I love that. I respect that.
And we talked. We were talking a little bit with John before we went on, but I think this, and it made me think of the Sherlock discussions we had about the BBC version of Sherlock in the first couple of seasons. That how different they were. They don't do a lot of spoon feeding. It's really subtle, and the humor is really droll and really, So that's another part of it that I think these European series are a lot different than the American series, because they don't spoon feed you. They're really slow burns, and so they leave a lot of questions. They don't answer all of your questions. So I think there's more of a contrast between American made series, and that's not to say this because they're too stupid. I think they have to, because these companies that make these shows want something that people can connect with, and Americans aren't always that patient to get into a show like this.
Yeah.
So.
You're right, and especially the big 3 or 4 networks here in America. I think, and they go with where the ratings are, right? I mean, if they create a smart, intelligent show, and people tune out or tune in and watch it, they'll keep making more of that. I think like Lost is a great example of Lost ratings went down over time because people were getting too confused and I'm lost, and and I think they, and then you've got these other networks that and I don't want to put down anybody who watches, but like the police procedurals where they just over explain everything and really kind of hand it to you on a silver platter so you don't have to think. I think the networks know what their audience is and they program for that, whereas the Netflix and the streaming services and the Hulus and they can pick and choose, and the people will vote with their clicks and their streams, and they and I think that's Netflix has a good variety of shows because they can pick and choose from everywhere. But you certainly, if you want this sort of like deep thought type series, slow burn, having to read subtitles, you're going to go find it. And I think that's where these streaming services and some of the deeper cable services like the HBOs and Showtime, stuff like that, can put that programming out there, and then people will find it.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't watch a whole lot of TV anymore, but this is the kind of show that I like to watch
Yeah.
when I do.
And this is a good example of I always, put your phone away. Or actually, on this one, I watched it on my phone, so I couldn't do anything but watch it. But I realized today I watched the last episode on TV, and I had my phone in my hand. And the minute I looked down, I was like, oh, I don't understand it anymore. Like, I need to have my eyes glued to it for the subtitles. Otherwise, I'm going to start tuning out. And I think I need that type of show to pull me in, because there's so many distractions now that there are other shows that I put on that I knowingly am going to half pay attention to, because I'm going to look at something on my phone at the same time. And so it's good that these shows demand your attention and demand you kind of tune in and hyper focus. And I think that's more engaging. It pulls in more of your brain.
Yeah.
It's funny you brought that up, because my husband and I had a discussion. We were watching something, and I was on my phone almost the whole time. And he's like, why aren't you watching? Not even paying attention. It's like, but I'm listening to it. And because so much of the media that we consume here in America is spoon-fed, I just have to listen, and I know exactly what's going on, because they're having conversations about the stuff that they're doing, even though the characters already know this information. So I don't even have to watch. I know what they're doing. I know how they're doing it, but with this show, I had to sit and pay attention to what was going on. I mean, it did help that I had the English dub. I guess I could have looked away, but there was so much to the visual. I mean, there was very subtle things that they showed you in amongst the conversations that were happening that if you didn't pay attention, you would have missed. And so I totally agree that this was one of those. Dark was the same way. Man, if you looked away at Dark, you'd miss so much.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that. I like when the creators assume that the watcher is smart and not stupid and need to be told everything, because it makes for such a unique experience for every single person when they can fill in the gaps themselves. And so you can have discussions and conversations just like a book. Right? When you read a book, everybody visualizes something different. They read into more than what, they read between the lines. And so conversations can be had, and it makes it that much more, the experience more enjoyable. But if we were to sit here and have our conversation about Big Bang Theory, it wouldn't last an hour and 17 minutes.
Don't get me started. Don't get me started on Big Bang Theory.
That's funny.
Well, are we watching something else? Are we going to start a new vote?
Yeah, let's start a new vote. New nominations. So
let's check out
Brandy,
the forums.
what was the show you wanted last time that you got outvoted?
Broadchurch.
Okay, so I picked Broadchurch, but I felt like it was kind of cheating to vote for my own, so I didn't vote for it. So I voted for I can't even remember now. There was another show on there. I can't remember what did we have. What do you remember your nominations, Stacy?
I nominated OA and The Humans.
Maybe I voted for The Humans. I think next TV series to watch. But Broadchurch is good.
I voted for Broadchurch. I was excited about OA when I suggested it to you guys, and then I found out they canceled it before the story was finished. So now I don't even know if I want to watch it.
Yeah.
I don't like investing if I'm not going to get a conclusion.
Your Honor, that's the one I voted for with Bryan Cranston.
Your Honor.
Oh, was that
who nominated that?
Was it you that nominated that?
No, that was
maybe Sean. I don't know, but it looked good. I love Bryan Cranston.
Yeah,
I
Sean.
do too. That one looked
Sean.
really good. I think it was on a service I don't have though. That's why I didn't vote for that.
Oh, okay. Well, we can
stick to Netflix. I think there's plenty.
We can do a whole new lineup and vote again, and now John can nominate something. Anybody?
Yeah,
really.
there's not really anything that's caught my eye, but I don't pay it a ton of attention. Katla was one of the few that actually did kind of catch my eye, because I didn't even really, pay attention when y'all were voting for it. But because it won and it had caught my eye, and I was like, well, okay, I'll jump in on this one.
Cool.
I'm glad you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, thanks for having us on your channel.
Are you going
Yeah,
to be
thanks
able
for
to
being
join
on
us?
my channel.
Yeah. Are you
Go
going
ahead,
to be able to
Stacey.
join us for Nobody, which is next week? Is that next week?
The 22nd.
Probably not, because I've got a lot of reading to do between now and the end of the month.
Don't we all?
I can
Yeah.
relate. Yeah.
I haven't watched it yet, but my husband's going to watch it with me, so he'll have some things to say. I'll make notes.
Stay off your phone, Stacy.
Stay off my phone.
I get that too. What are you doing on your phone? Are you paying attention?
Yeah, I am bad about it.
Yeah, so we'll get another thread going and start nominating.
Okay, sounds good.
Awesome.
I'm excited. I like watching shows with you guys
Yeah, it's fun.
because I came away with some stuff that I didn't think about after we talk about it.
Yeah, you guys definitely had this show pegged way better than I did all the way through.
Not me. Yeah, me and Jeff were both waiting for the read.
It was a good one. Cool. Yeah,
was a
we'll get
good
another
choice.
vote going. Yeah.
All right, well, about ready to end the broadcast.
Sure.
Or any closing thoughts?
Ready for season 2. Hopefully it happens.
Yeah, I do hope there is a season 2.
I'm looking forward to what we pick next.
Yeah. Thanks
Yeah.
again, John, for hosting.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. Thanks for
Yeah.
allowing me to host. This was, it was always interesting, trying to do something like this for the first time. And I did have Margaret Bernard help me out. I did a little bit of a broadcast with her, so that helped kind of ease me into this a little bit. So I appreciate the help she gave.
Yeah.
You did great.
Yeah, did a
Yeah.
good job.
Really good.
All right. And thanks for watching, and hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye,
Bye, everyone.
everybody.